Hello class, my name is Bjorn Berkedal and my project is called Climate Change and its Devastating Impact on the Impoverished. Since the Industrial Revolution, anthropogenic climate change has contributed to increased sea level rise, forest fires, drought, and hurricanes across the planet. This should be common knowledge by now. It is no longer a debate. The growing issue that needs to get talked about more is how climate change is continually impacting poor people around the world. While climate change is never seen as a sole cause of poverty, research has identified numerous direct and indirect channels through which climate variability and change may exacerbate poverty, particularly in less developed countries and regions. Farmers, fishermen, and ranchers in poor nations have the most to lose. Rising ocean temperatures and ocean acidification are radically altering marine aquatic ecosystems, and intense drought year after year is making it impossible to survive for rural farmers. I would like to read a quote from Saravath Eric, who is a farmer from Vietnam. We are concerned about climate change because we live in a low-lying land. So just like the Maldives, if it happens like predicted, if the water level rises, the delta may be flooded. The rainfall is not normal, but before people did not see it as part of a global warming. Farming is now affected more and more. One of the most prominent reasons for concern is where will people go when their homes suddenly become inhabitable. Terms such as climate change, migration, environmentally induced or forced migration, ecological or environmental refugees, and climate change refugees are going to become more common terms in the near future. While 195 nations have approved the historic Paris Climate Accords, small nations such as the Maldives still have reason to be concerned. With the possibility of sea level rise of 1 meter this century, even if the surface area is not completely submerged, the question arises how long people there can remain and lead normal lives. Migration in Tuvalu follow two paths from outer islands to Funafuti and from Tuvalu to Fiji in New Zealand. Tuvalu is a nation similar to the Maldives that faces a great threat. These climate migrants are going to be moving to urban areas where they are more likely to find work. Unfortunately, many migrants moving to urban centers will not fare much better than where they were before. The world's urban population is currently estimated at 3.3 billion. Most of that population resides in the developing world, where nearly all future urban growth will take place. During the next 20 years, it is projected that over 95% of the population growth in developing countries will take place in urban areas, with the urban populations of Africa and South Asia increasing by an average of 62 million people each year. Cities in the developing world don't have the infrastructure to handle such a large influx of people. This is why there are so many slums. Gentrification is defined as the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. What this definition leaves out is that most of those people who get displaced are people of color. Climate gentrification is similar, whereby the privileged few are leaving the coast and moving further inland where land is cheaper and housing is cheaper, and they are pushing poorer residents out. For example, during the last 5 years in Miami, they lost 7 mobile home parks, or about 700 housing units. One of these parks is now home to Magic City, a multi-million-dollar development that will eventually include 2,600 housing units. Miami is just a microcosm of a larger problem happening around the world. Many people of color who have been living far inland from attractive beaches are now getting pushed out by wealthy investors. But many of those people don't have the economic means to live in a metropolis. If those cities don't start preparing for these people, the most likely outcome is a massive increase in homelessness and overwhelming pressure on social services. So few of the migrants that have been encountered in recent studies worldwide were able to migrate internationally. The vast majority face a situation where they only make it to the next livable place. This will increasingly require countries to work together, especially developing countries. One of the most logical solutions for governments is to integrate climate change and disaster risk reduction policies for the poor into urban planning management. At a bare minimum, coastal cities need to identify risk-prone areas, build more resiliency through urban planning, and avoid new construction in these areas. They need to anticipate flooding and build more elevated buildings and create floating communities where necessary. Cities with slums must invest in them and build stronger infrastructure for the inevitable population increase. To reduce flood risks, cities can map current flood-prone areas and use climate projections to understand how climate change could increase the size of flood-prone areas in the future. In addition, they must aim to increase green spaces, construct wetlands, and use sustainable urban drainage systems in the city to mitigate flooding. The primary focus needs to be bridging communities and local governments to work together in finding local solutions. In order to avoid a large-scale crisis, large urban areas and countries are going to need to adapt and start welcoming outsiders. In addition, they must build infrastructure to be able to handle an increase in population of many lower-income families. We are all capable of doing this. We must not see these migrants as a burden on our society, but as people who adapted to disaster and can help make our cities even stronger. Thanks for watching, and the following 3 slides are my sources.